morning. Good morning. Yeah, so Cameron, I've been making it a point to close the doors on the studio lately. Hey, Stryker has first blood. Good morning, brother. I've been making it a point to close the doors on the shed. One, because it's cold outside. It helps keep this heater efficienter. But then Fee mentioned that in fact my audio sounds better. So
right. Well, you can hear cars drive by when it's open.
Yeah.
Hey,
but
so,
you have to also appreciate that when we first started doing the show from the new location, it was hot as balls.
Right.
It was all about having the fans blow the hot air out the door.
Right. So have a holly jolly Sithmas. Yes. Sithmas. Yes. You know, it might be worth as we roll into this time next year where I just have a small collection of like Christmas sweaters, because I almost put on a shirt and tie so that I could see I've got this this Pickle Rick tie here. Yeah. Wore that one to a party the other day.
Well, since we're just kind of chit-chatting now, hey, it's Friday. This is our last Firearms Friday of the year. Wait, no. We're going to sneak in one more.
Not. No,
we're
it's not.
Sneak in one more. You're right. But we're getting up to closing out the year. We're going to be working on doing like a wrap-up show, year in review type of thing. That's going to be a lot of fun, and that's probably going to need to be a longer special. So we'll have a conversation about when we're going to do that, how we're going to do that. And I'm looking to make some changes next year, just growing the show. One of the things I want to do, I'm going to experiment with it for most of January and see how it goes. I'm going to do a longer show. Like, so now saying that it's a little touch and go saying that, because frankly, the theory is the show starts at 7:30 and goes for half an hour. Often we go over 15, 30 minutes. I think the longest we've ever just gone is an hour and a half. I'm going to start making it a point to try and push to 2 hours, at least for the beginning of the month of January. I've been doing the shorts, cutting it from the main show, and I've been getting a great response out of that. Yesterday, the last two episodes, as we talked about the continuing resolution yesterday and the day before, and both of those went viral and have done very well on YouTube, even picking up quite a few more subscribers. We picked up more subscribers in the last 3 months than in the last year, which is excellent.
It's the shorts. Like they're currently the algorithm hack, and then something else will be the algorithm hack, and then something else will be the algorithm hack. It's like,
well,
whatever.
It's the shorts, and frankly, I did the call-in show with Tim Pool the other day, and then after that, I did the after show with some of his crew, and we picked up about 24 subs. Like, not this isn't like an analytics thing of, okay, well, these subs happened at this. No, this was people in the chat saying, hey, I just subbed your channel. Hey, I just subbed your channel for 2 hours after that live show. That was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. That was a lot of fun. So I'll be doing more stuff like that, going on more shows, and I've been talking to a bunch of people now that I'm way out in the middle of nowhere in the country. I talked to a tattoo artist yesterday. I'm gonna do a show with him probably in February. Be controversial, yeah. Be Controversial says yo, because he's one of the ones that subbed from the Tim Pool show the other day. We appreciate you being here, and I've seen him watching the show most mornings since then, which is awesome. But yeah, I talked to a tattoo guy yesterday that's building a new shop in Sandersville. I've been talking to a bunch of farmers lately. I'm going to be doing shows where I go and just like interview them, take a tour of the farm, talk about what they're doing. And that kind of content is a little bit of a departure from our usual political analytics and stuff like that. But part of what I want to do with this channel, I'm all about the conservatism, the conservative ethos, the conservative mindset and lifestyle. And an important part of that now is, hey, get the hell out of these big cities where everybody hates you, your money isn't worth anything, and you need to be armed. Like out here in the country, we prefer to be armed, but frankly, we're safe as houses because there's just not that many people to get in trouble with.
There's some wildlife, though. Like, look, speaking of Temple.
Oh, yeah, you definitely, yeah, it's worthwhile to just keep a pistol on you because sometimes you come outside and there's an opossum on your griddle.
Right.
Your bacon grease.
Look, anyhow, speaking of Tim Pool, you seen the thing where like he goes full dad energy on Luke Beasley?
Yes. I was watching that live last night. Wait, are we talking about the same? Are you talking about during the Timcast IRL last night? Or I think they did a Culture War episode yesterday. I haven't seen that yet.
Whatever one where he cusses out Luke Beasley and calls him a fascist.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went, honestly, if I've got time today between getting ready for the Christmas party this weekend, I'm probably going to clip that and talk about it because, like, I've got a membership so I can talk to some of the production guys because I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes to try and get a deal doing some. I don't want to get anybody too big ahead on anything, so we'll talk about that more in detail. But I've got some stuff going on in the background there that I'm working on. But so I was in the chat yesterday in the Discord, the members only Discord yesterday, and that poor kid, like the entire thrust of the conversation was, well, that's the end of this kid's political career, basically, because he went on there and essentially he didn't know anything.
Thought he knew things.
At one point, Tim Pool asks him, so you know who Ahmaud Arbery is, right? And he's like, yeah, I know. And Tim's like, okay, who is he? Well, why don't you tell me? No, son, we've done this show. We've covered Ahmaud Arbery. We know who he is. My point is, you don't know what you're talking about. And of course, Luke eventually had to admit, oh, well, yeah, I mean, the name rings a bell, but I don't actually know who you're talking about. See, and that was basically like the entire show is this kid kept saying, things like, oh, well, Donald Trump called for the end of the Constitution. Really? Let's pull up what he said and let's talk about that. And the kid just didn't know anything. He's essentially an unprincipled child who regurgitates whatever Harry Sisson is paid to tell him.
Yes. Anyhow, all I was going to say is I think it's obvious that Tim is going to have a baby because that was dad energy. That's what that was. That was.
And apparently he's having a little girl.
Yeah, well, either way, that was dad energy. That's what happens to men when you're going to have a baby. Tim Pool should have had a kid a decade ago. He'd already be so red-pilled.
If Tim Pool had this baby girl 10 years ago, the cast castle would have crew-served machine guns mounted on its turrets.
Hey, look, it might. Okay, I've heard stories about the cast castle. Anyhow, okay, so we're almost 10 minutes in, and there is a thing that I wanted to talk about because it just, it made me happy. It made me happy.
Is it this thing?
It is the somebody got their fanny spanked.
Hell, I'm pushing the button. Damn it. Okay, I'm having an issue here. I've got the article pulled up. I've got it sharing, and the computer is not letting me pull up the presentation mode. So let's just discuss it. Hopefully the computer will catch up with us in a minute.
Well, brother, look, hey, hold on. I think we're running the we're running the studio, so I should be able to.
No, yes. Cameron, I can share it. What it's not letting me do is switch the view to show the presentation mode.
Right.
You being able to share it won't change that. Unfortunately.
Oh, well, that's it. Well, look, then what I'm going to do is just read it because yay.
Because Fanny got spanked.
Yes, because Fanny got spanked. Yes, the apparently the gorilla grip has slipped. Yeah, I've been waiting on that one all night. Okay, so
I didn't know she had that G.I. Joe Kung Fu grip.
So this is coming to you from NBC News. Appeals court disqualifies DA Fani Willis from prosecuting Trump Georgia case. Georgia appellate court Thursday disqualified Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and removed her from prosecuting Donald Trump co-defendants in a case she brought over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The decision is likely to cripple the case and bring a halt to efforts to try Trump and his allies for their efforts to overturn his loss. Federal prosecutors have already dropped Trump's federal criminal case related to the 2020 election in the wake of his winning the presidency after carefully considering the trial court's findings in its order. We have concluded that it erred in failing to disqualify DA Willis and her office, the court said, referring to an earlier ruling that allowed Willis to remain on the case. Willis had been under scrutiny over her relationship with special prosecutor on the case, Nathan Wade. Trump and other co-defendants had requested to have Willis removed from the case. I don't really think there's some more stuff in that article that would be interesting to get to, but you guys can't see it, so I won't keep doing the reading and everything.
To share it, but yeah, because I'm gonna try a quick little experiment.
Be controversial says, oh man, the appeals court went Tim Pool on Luke on Fanny, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's good. That's clever, sir. I like how you tied everything together with a bow. So if you're one of like 12 people in the world living under a rock, Fani Willis is the Fulton County District Attorney, and Fulton County's got a history of some messed up district attorneys. Like the one before Fanny actually might have even been worse. That's Paul Howard.
Yeah, Howard the Coward.
Yeah, Howard the Coward. And Fani Willis was actually seen as an upgrade to Paul Howard when she was first elected. That is how corrupt this office is. And despite all the bullshit about Fani Willis, she was reelected. Fulton County has decided that, that whatever, I don't know. You know what? No, I do know. She is a black woman in Fulton County, and she's going to perpetually get reelected in that county unless she does something so egregious it's impossible to ignore. And apparently corrupting the prosecution of a former president and his allies was not obviously egregious enough for Fulton County because the identity politics is just too strong in some places. And right. if you think that makes me a racist, no, it doesn't. It's actually Fulton County that's racist because Fani Willis should never have been reelected because she lied about having a boyfriend who also worked on the case. Look, okay, let me back all the way up. The problem here is the appearance of ethics is ethics. The appearance of impropriety is impropriety. Now, in the real world, can something look suspicious but actually have a reasonable explanation? Yes, of course. That's how reality works. But when you're dealing with ethics, when you're dealing with agency, when you're dealing with money, when you're dealing with law, when you're dealing with contracts, anything in that sphere, the way things look and the way things are perceived are the way things are going to be treated. So if it looks like you hired your secret boyfriend and ran up a bunch of money so that you could go on trips with your secret boyfriend, all while prosecuting the president, people are going to assume that's what you did. And
all while paying your secret boyfriend to go have off-book meetings with the Biden administration at the White House.
Right. And
You're
then
supposed to believe that there's no conspiracy, there's no coordination, none of that. And to your point about the racism angle, you said that there's no way she doesn't get reelected unless she does something so egregious it can't be overlooked. And I want to kind of bolster that and push a little bit that it's so bad. The racism, the in-group and out-group preference for a black female in this position is so biased and baked into the voter base in a place like Fulton County in Atlanta, Georgia, that is just diehard cancer blue. That what Cameron was saying, it is not the case that there is anything she could do that is so egregious that people would not vote for her. They'll vote for her no matter what. The only way she doesn't get reelected is if she does something so egregious that the law cannot help but punish her for it and make her ineligible to run for reelection. The only way she doesn't get reelected if she chooses to run again is if she's disbarred, incarcerated, or just financially ruined by a justice system prosecuting for her obvious corruption.
Yeah, and there's so much here. Okay, first of all, we're going to attempt a thing that has never been done before. We're going to try and bring a president and all of his buddies down on RICO charges. If I was the one in charge of that investigation, buddy, everything would be so above board you could eat off of it. That's how clean everything would be. Right. Okay? Because if there was even a hint, a whiff of impropriety, well, we're going after a former president with RICO and all of his buddies with RICO. Everything better be locked down tight. So that just in and of itself was the first thing that's like, what are you doing, lady? Why? But then she hires the boyfriend. But you know what? Sometimes in professional capacities, people develop relationships. You do tend to be attracted to your peers because they are your peers. Okay, fair enough. So you don't hide it. Like if you work for a company and then you get into a relationship with someone else that works at that company, what you do is you go to the management and you tell that company, hey, we're in a relationship now. So any upcoming projects or anything that could be a conflict of interest, you need to be aware of the fact that we are in a romantic relationship. And Fani and Wade didn't do this. And then there's all this business with the even if you can excuse all of that, let's just excuse all of that. There's this business with the with all the trips and the money, and specifically the fact that they were swapping money back and forth in cash, which cannot be traced. And Fani Willis's explanation for this cash was, oh, well, you know, when I go to Publix, I'll just get an extra $50 back and keep it under the mattress. And look, I'm being slightly hyperbolic as I say that, but not really. I promise. I am conveying to you her explanation for why she had thousands of dollars of cash laying around that she could swap back and forth with Wade that just couldn't be accounted for.
She literally said, when I go to Publix and buy something, I take out $50 cash and hold it. And she explained that it was because her daddy taught her that while she's dating, and I haven't been dating as much lately because I'm busy with government. But if you're going to be a woman and you're going to be out on a date, you need to have at least $200 in your pocket in case homeboy starts acting out. You can get a ride, go where you want to go, have the freedom to make your decisions. Wow. Okay. There's a lot to work with here. For one, if that's what you think dating looks like, sweetheart, I don't believe you've ever met your father.
Yes. And here's the thing. When you're talking about, we're talking about a district attorney, somebody that in theory should have a deep understanding of law and look, anybody that's ever even been like, I don't know, a life insurance agent, as Chris and I have, they would tell you, whoa, You've got thousands of dollars in cash that's unaccounted for. This concludes your and I's relationship because I'm not getting involved with whatever you've got going on there. I'm not going to lose my license to practice insurance over whatever in the fuck you're doing. So for her to be engaged in that activity, to know that money is fungible, and there is a reason why money is spent and documented the way that it is so that it keeps everything honest, that in and of itself, ridiculous.
Well, and I agree with you for the most part on dealing with clients as an insurance broker if they've got a lot of cash on hand. I actually do agree with Fani to a point that having cash on hand is a good kind of security mechanism. It is much easier to deal in cash in an emergency situation. Like if you're driving long haul, you break down on the side of the road. You don't want to be Doc Holliday stranded in the middle of nowhere waiting for parts to be delivered because nobody takes your Amex. You got cash on hand, you get the car fixed and move on. That's all well and good. And I would even go so far as to say if you're a civilian, a private citizen, and you want to keep thousands of dollars cash on hand, it's not the safest bet. Maybe you put that in gold or something that doesn't just cost. Cash. The thing about cash is it loses value over time. But when you're talking about somebody like Fani Willis, and she's doing her business in that way, sweetheart, you're a public servant. You are not entitled to privacy. You're a public servant. Your privacy, you are entitled to privacy in your bedroom and in the shower, right? Those places where you've got to take care of yourself a little bit. But as far as what your personal finances, your economic decisions, the way you manage your household, no, that is public. That is public fucking domain because you chose that.
Stryker asks if we were with Primerica. They tried. They tried. I went to some Primerica meetings and I was like, man, you guys are kind of cultish. Like it's a little weird.
Yeah. They were scary.
Yeah, of course I want to make $250,000 a year, but I don't know that I want my eyes to permanently do that bug-eyed thing that all of yours do. Like it's woohoo.
We could do a whole show talking about groups like because Primerica is not the only one. I've been courted by several of them when I was still actively selling insurance, and they sure do make it sound good. But they make it sound the kind of good that you're like, oh yeah, this is good. I'm gonna make lots of money and drink Kool-Aid.
Right. And look, as if all that weren't enough, when this finally was all brought to light, and the fact that it was brought to light by one of, I forget who it was, doesn't matter, but one of Trump's co-defendants actually is a sharp fucking cookie that used some weaponized autism to uncover all this because apparently there was all this business with secret garage door openers and like y'all, if you want to, if you just want a good chuckle, like Google why we call her Gorilla Grip. There's a reason. Okay. So when all this finally comes to light, of course, the Trump defense team in general demanded a special hearing to have her removed from the case because there's a conflict of interest because she's paying her boyfriend to help her prosecute the president and hiding the fact that he is her boyfriend. Obvious conflict of interest right there on the surface. And for some reason, I think the judge and was terrified of being a white man going after a black woman. I think that's what it amounted to. The judge ruled that one of the two of them had to go, that there was the appearance of impropriety, and that one of the two of them had to go. That's right. He wanted to divide the baby.
And keep in mind, part of the backdrop of this whole thing is this judge, this McAfee, was up for re-election in a district that, like we said, is going to support the black woman no matter what.
Right, racism. Right.
She could be filmed killing a man, in cold blood, and they're still going to vote for her. So McAfee should have been recused immediately because he's running an election, at the same time that he's prosecuting that woman in that place. And to bolster this, God, I wish we could see the article. But in the article, and Cameron read it out loud, the Georgia Appellate Court said, after carefully considering the trial court's findings in its order, we conclude that it erred in failing to disqualify DA in her office. The conclusion of the appellate court was not just that Fani Willis is disqualified, should be disqualified, but that the previous court got it wrong. The previous court was wrong not to throw her off.
Yeah, and look, and here's why it was wrong. I could put this for you very simply. If the two of them have the appearance of impropriety, why is only getting rid of one of them the solution to that impropriety? Boy, that's a real I mean, that's just, real.
Yeah, it's like we have child trafficking charges. We know for sure that you've been selling children. To whom? I mean, you can't have one without the other. A couple cannot be individually corrupt.
Yes, and Be Controversial says if they had fully disclosed everything, they wouldn't have had their personal lives dragged through court. At this point, I'm prepared to make the statement that they did not disclose, because Wade's no dummy either, okay?
I don't know. Have you ever been to a cabin with Fani Willis?
Look,
he pauses and just stares at the ceiling for a minute and a half. And he says, no.
Well, no, look, that was a tactic. Everything about what he and Fani did when they were deposed, all that was theater. All that was a tactic. Like that was delay.
It's not mentioned here. It's not mentioned in the article here, but it's worth mentioning that one of the things that probably hanged him in this case is a couple months ago, Fanny's daughter was being arrested for DUI or something, and Fani showed up at the scene where the police were arresting the daughter, and Wade showed up with her. Right. And we were told that their relationship was over because of impropriety. And that's part of the reason that the judge was able to split the baby and say, okay, one of you can stay. And then Fanny's daughter's about to be under arrest, and she and Wade show up together to deal with that, got caught on camera like that. That right there probably had a great deal to do with the court saying, yeah, we tried to lie for you, and then we got caught. You got caught lying to us.
Yes, exactly. And look, when I say that he's no dummy, like both of them at least possessed enough intelligence to pass the bar exam. So I'm going to assume that your IQ is north of 100. I'm just going to.
I've taken a Pearson test. You've taken a Pearson test. That's what the bar exam is.
No, look, no. I'm gonna stand on it. Okay, that like they've got an IQs a minimum north of 100, right? So, you put all these things together, and it was very obvious. And I'm going to just go ahead and assume that they kept things secret because they knew what they were doing. They knew, they felt justified. They felt like, man, not only are we going to get to take down the big bad Trump, but we're going to get a payday while we do it. We're going to take one for the team and enjoy it. That's what they did. And it blew up what I originally thought was the most dangerous case against Donald Trump because it was RICO. And now, nope, it's all done. And and I don't know, maybe they are stupid. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Or maybe they're a specific kind of stupid. You can have book smarts, but that doesn't mean you're wise. And
they're hubristic.
That's where I was going. Is that their hubris? They were so convinced of the righteousness of their cause that they could excuse the unrighteous things they were doing to reach their ends. Like
this is part of what I was talking about the other day when we went down the rabbit hole on the difference between treason and sedition. And I'm not going to rehash that, but more importantly, the idea of going after these prosecutors, these corrupt bureaucrats. Your Fani Willis, your Nathan Wade, your Mershon, all those cats that have been involved in a conspiracy to defraud the American people with all the lawfare against Donald Trump. The reason that they felt like they could do that is because Hillary Clinton is not in jail. Because basically for the last 20 years, the federal government has signaled, hey, if you are on the left, you can file frivolous lawsuits with no consequences. You can lie in trial. You can bring the FBI to produce false evidence against people who are accused of murder and obvious self-defense cases. You can crucify righteous men who have done nothing wrong. You can do whatever you want, and there will be no consequences. You can disseminate classified material to the enemies of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton, right? You can lie under oath about it or lie to the FBI about it.
While you do it.
There are no consequences. Say again?
What? And you can even be insulting while you do it. Wipe my server with a cloth? Oh, God. There are very few times in my life I've actually wanted to hit a woman. That was one of them. What? Like with a cloth? Oh, my God. You know what? Just this is why it was legal to beat your wife with a stick. Rule of thumb. Let's stuff like that right there. Right there.
So
yeah, that was anyhow, it had to get talked about because Chris and I live in Georgia. This is something that like Chris and I have been covering the Fulton County stuff literally since, again, Paul Howard was the DA, and Fani Willis legitimately seemed like a fucking upgrade. Okay? I can't stress this enough. Okay? Like, the only reason Paul Howard went down is he got Me Too'd, and he got legitimately Me Too'd, is what it looks like. But here we are. This is kind of the last domino. And let's be honest, Trump was never in any real jeopardy since he won re-election. Some of his co-defendants might have been, and some of the other co-defendants that have already pled out on these charges, I'd imagine, are pretty fucking pissed right now. And normally when you do a plea deal, you can't undo the plea deal. You actually waive your right to appeal the guilty sentence as part of the plea agreement. However, if the district attorney has been disqualified for prosecuting the case, I suspect, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I suspect some of those plea deals might get revisited. Like Jenna Ellis, I'm talking to you, okay? Like seriously, come back around on this stuff, honey, okay? But we had to talk about it because it just makes me happy. I wanted to have the puns about the gorilla grip has slipped and Fani got spanked and all of that. But it's right here. It's in our home state. It's something that we're on. It's very much on brand for us. And it just makes me happy. Like, oh no, what is it that we heard over and over again? Oh, no one's above the law.
Yep.
So anyhow, I'm done. Whatever you want to do. If you want to do a faff, we can do a faff. If you need to call it, we can call it. I understand, but that's you have made my day.
I'm all for. I want to do the faffs. I want to do some Firearms Friday stuff, but I'm going to try one more time to try and get the screen share to work. And then without it, we're just going to I'll just have to read the article to you. But we can do it that way. It's, I don't know what the hell is wrong with what the hell is going on here. It's really aggravating, but okay, so I just tried to do this, and it's not working. So we'll do this. I'll just read the article, and we'll go with that. So, attempted home invasion ends with intruder hospitalized after being shot by homeowner. This is in Levine, Arizona, on December 19th. It was published on December 19th. So, an early Monday morning home invasion. Okay, so this was this past Monday. In a Levine neighborhood escalated into a dramatic scene as a homeowner took decisive action to protect their family. The incident occurred just after 1 a.m. near 51st Avenue and Southern Avenue, involved several armed suspects forcing entry into a residence. Okay. Several armed suspects at 1 o'clock in the morning. Y'all. I don't know yet. We're going to find out. If there are charges against this homeowner, then you need to fire your entire government in Levine, Arizona. And we're talking about Arizona, which Arizona is kind of funny.
Arizona is a fantastic example of that whole blue cancer thing. Arizona is a supremely red state, like very red. Got some serious blue cancer that it needs to work out, though. Here's the thing, though. Several armed people in a home at 1 o'clock in the morning. Here's a possibility. They were there to steal drugs. And I've said before that I don't think drugs should be illegal, and that I don't think that felony murder should come from defending your illegal drugs. And I maintain that position. However, there is a possibility that they were there to steal drugs, that these were criminals robbing criminals. And again, I don't think being a criminal means you are allowed to have criminal activity committed against you. I'll just be crystal clear on that. However, legally, the homeowner could be charged because they were themselves engaged in criminal activity and were thus a target for more criminal activity. Because multiple armed people showing up at your house in the middle of the night, brother, that almost sounds like an assassination attempt, you know? Like, woo. Okay, listen, everybody, we know about Nick Fuentes, okay? I'm happy he didn't get greased. I see you guys in the comments. That's just... There's only so many hours in a day. We'll get to Nicky. I promise.
And I don't know that much more about Nick Fuentes. I mean, somebody showed up at his house with a gun and a crossbow and failed to murder him.
Somebody showed up at a house with a gun and a crossbow after he had killed people and dogs. Like, this was a for real, no bullshit threat to Nick Fuentes' life. So there's a reason why it's being mentioned in our comments. But yeah.
And Fuentes didn't draw down and defend himself.
Look, we have video of the guy.
I don't have enough new information to intelligently speak to it.
If I know you're standing at my door and you're armed and you intend to do me harm, well, step one, don't open the fucking door.
Correct.
Right. Like, and I'm not saying you shoot through the door either. You open yourself up to a whole lot of liability doing that. But no, step one, don't open the door. So look, let's have some things develop. It looks to me like this guy was just a nut, and for whatever reason decided Nick Fuentes was the Antichrist. But we're gonna have to let more information come out before we know.
Yeah. So back to this story. Inside the home, a man acted swiftly, retrieving a firearm and firing at the intruders. This response struck one suspect, who was later hospitalized with serious injuries, while the other assailants fled the scene. Phoenix police reported that the homeowner, a woman, and 3 children inside the residence were unharmed. Drone footage captured at the site showed a firearm with an extended magazine on the driveway and scattered shell casings, evidence of the chaos that unfolded. So this young lady was in a no-shit gunfight. Investigators are currently piecing together the events and working to locate the other suspects. No details regarding their identities or whereabouts have been disclosed. Home invasions are one of the most alarming forms of criminal activity after leaving residents feeling vulnerable and uncertain. This case underscores the importance of preparedness and situational awareness when it comes to home security. So there's nothing here about drugs. That's not a part of this story. It looks like you've just legit got an armed gang conducting home invasions for without other evidence to support another theory. I would say that it sounds like you've just got an armed gang going in to try and rob the house, looking to steal valuables and cash if available. And like we've said in the past, the firearm is the great equalizer, the great mechanical advantage that God created man and Sam Colt made him equal. Right? Ladies, you are not going to overpower a big, strong man like me. That's what guns are for.
You're not going to overpower a man, generally speaking. Like, that's just not what's going to happen. Like, your average woman versus your average man, like, is going to. Yeah, like, no, that's just. I said it before, say it again. If you consider yourself a feminist and you're not armed, you're not a feminist. You're just not. Anything you could do, I could do better. Yeah, dodge bullets, bitch. Let me know how that works out.
All right. Next, armed robber killed when victim fights for control of his gun. Oh shit!
Damn.
Son.
Damn. So this guy's a badass, is what I hear. I don't even need to read the rest of the story. Bad guy gets killed with his own gun. Bad guy's retarded. Would-be victim's a badass.
Yeah,
Done.
I've done some amazing badass shit. On the long list of badass shit that I've done is not included while being unarmed, wrestled a weapon away from an armed assailant. Not outside of a training environment with a rubber duck. An armed robber is dead. Wow, this article is not playing. Chicago. An armed robber is dead, apparently shot by his own firearm as the would-be victim tried to gain control of the weapon on Saturday afternoon, Chicago police said. I just had this nearly uncontrollable impulse to start reading this article with phonetic punctuation. You're familiar with phonetic punctuation, right, Cameron?
Yes.
The Victor Morgan bit, yeah. Police initially responded to calls of three men beating a man on the ground in the 1500 block of West Garfield around 2:15 p.m. First responders soon learned that the subject of the beating was also the robber who had been mortally wounded by a gunshot. I'm sorry. Police initially responded to calls of three men beating a man on the ground in the 1500 block of West Garfield around 2:51 p.m. First responders soon learned. I love this sentence. I love everything about this sentence. First responders soon learned that the subject of the beating was also the robber who had been mortally wounded by a gunshot. CPD said a 43-year-old man was working outside when the still unidentified robber walked up, displayed a gun, and demanded property. A struggle for control of the firearm began, resulting in the robber suffering a single gunshot wound to his chest, according to the police. He died a short time later at the University of Chicago Medical Center. An officer at the scene said they found a gun and a ski mask at the scene. Holy shit! So there's no question we're talking about a bad guy, right? Chicago was that's it. The rest of the text on this article is the history of the reporting agency, and we don't care. They found a gun and a ski mask at the scene. Okay, son.
So wait. He got shot and then he got the shit kicked out of him? That's a bad day.
That's the marksmanship equivalent of if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot. If you can't make the shot, just kick him while he's down.
Well, apparently they made the shot. Like, man.
Yeah, shot to the chest. I mean, and hey, that's center mass. We don't know if he we can't tell from the article if he wrestled the gun away from the guy and then backed off, made distance, and got the shot, or if the gun went off while they were wrestling over it. Either way, center mass is center mass, baby.
Yeah, Pit Denny's asking if we got a button for that. Like,
not yet.
Yeah, we need an overkill button. Like that's just amazing. Like, oh my God, talk about fucked around and found out. Like, how awful would that be for you to get shot? You're laying there struggling to breathe, and then they start kicking you. You can either hold your sucking chest wound closed, or you can cover your head up so you don't get kicked in the face.
Right.
But you can't do both.
Since we're if we're gonna have a story about getting kicked while you're down, I sure do wish Mario was on this morning. I don't know what else to say about that story. I mean, FAFO, baby.
Justice was served.
Hey, you know what we call that, right? The scientific method.
Right.
Experiment and iterate. Experiment, iterate, draw conclusion.
Right. Do we have any more?
I've got 3 more if you want to keep trucking. I'm going to try one more time to switch to the presentation. Nope. Okay, let's go for it. Suspect killed food vendor with concealed carry license, hurt in exchange of gunfire in Austin CPD. And real quick, Cameron, I am going to my keyboard's all the way over there. I'm going to drop a link over in the Camario real quick.
Right.
So you can read the next one.
Nope. That's definitely not. You definitely don't want me to click on that.
Oh, no, I do not. That's interesting. I'm glad you noticed that. There. Okay. So I'll read this one and then you get the next one. Suspect killed food vendor with concealed carry license, hurt in exchange of gunfire in Austin, according to CPD. So Austin, Chicago, apparently. Damn, I thought we were going to have a story in Texas. Like somebody bought a bottle of liquor, got their free gun, and went and put it to work. A food vendor with an Illinois concealed carry license shot and killed a man who pulled a gun on him in Austin, police said. Okay. That sentence right there, before we even know what the rest of the story is, there's a lot to talk about right there. A food vendor with an Illinois concealed carry license shot and killed a man who pulled a gun on him in Austin, Chicago, police said. A man who was at work, who was working, was put in a position where he had to defend his life against a criminal using deadly force, drawing his firearm and employing it to administer life-saving medication in the form of freedom seeds to save his own life.
Long distance hole punchers.
And part of the conversation is that he is licensed to carry that weapon concealed, which means that he had to pay money, file a petition, and beg the state to be allowed to survive inside the context of their grossly corrupt and criminal-riddled city. The fact that there was ever a question as to whether or not he could legally own that firearm means that the state is an active an active impediment to your being safe. Because I promise you this, right? It's cliche. We've said it, and we've said it 1,000 times before, but it is absolutely the truth. When seconds matter, the police are minutes away. And remember, the police have, according to the Supreme Court, in several cases, the police have no duty to defend. They do not have a legal requirement to interfere on your behalf and protect you from violent criminals. Even if they're watching the crime happen, if they watch it to its conclusion and you're laying dead on the ground and then they make the arrest.
Yeah, they have no legal obligation to interfere. Yeah, no legal obligation to interfere. That's yeah.
And if their failure to interfere results in the death of a loved one, you have no legal recourse to sue them for their interference, which is psychotic, because we have Good Samaritan laws in this country where if you stop to render first aid, you have to finish rendering first aid. If you stop and begin administering first aid to somebody, somebody's choking, you start to do the Heimlich and you just give up, you can be held criminally liable or civilly liable for abandoning the process after you've begun it, under the argument that if you've begun the process of administering life-saving measures, then the fact that the life-saving measures are being administered is a deterrent to other people who might have administered those life-saving measures, because they see that the first aid is already in force, it's already happening. And so if they try to do it as well, that they'd be interfering. So once you begin, you have to finish, right? And so all that legal context, keep that in mind. There are still police cars that say to protect and serve on the side of them. Every police department that has the words protect and serve on their cars should be prosecuted, the entire police department, and especially the chiefs who make that decision should be prosecuted for defrauding the American people. That is fraud.
So, you say when seconds matter, the police are only minutes away. For a long time. That's very generous. Well, no, for a long time, carried a .38 special, simple wagon wheel gun, loaded up with the Hornady critical defense plus P rounds. Came out of the muzzle about 900 feet a second. And that's when you're measuring feet per second, that's about as fast as you're going to get. Just saying. And I could not agree more. The fact that there is all of this licensure to defend yourself. I mean, I've said it before. I've said it again. Like gun laws need to go. Period. There is a historical precedent where if you were criminally insane, people would restrict you from having firearms. But that was a community thing. That is, let's say I run a pawn shop and you come in and you're all twitchy with bloodshot eyes and you're like, hey, I need a gun with some bullets. I don't care what kind of gun, what kind of bullets. Okay, then I'm not going to sell you a gun. Right? That's me actually being a responsible Second Amendment advocate, because I'm using my own judgment. But that doesn't mean I have the right to go to the government and say, hey, government, make it illegal for the crackhead to own a gun. And this is a thing. I realize I seem very extreme to people on this, but if you are old enough to vote, you're old enough to do everything else. Seriously, if you can vote, anything that you could do as a voter, you should be allowed to do, including having a firearm. And I mean 18 years old, no license, no classes, no nothing. Oh, well, you should take a firearm safety course. Well, don't you think that's a good idea? Yeah, it's a good idea. Please take a firearm safety course. But legally mandating it? No, fuck you. As soon as you allow one gun control law. It's never enough. It's never enough. Every time there is a shooting at a school, for example, what's the first thing the left says is be like, well, if we just be more like other civilized countries and more like them, and they've solved this gun control problem. Yeah, they've solved this gun control problem by taking away people's fucking guns. That's how they solve the problem. So, yeah, so no, screw you and getting a license. It is Oliver Twist saying, please, sir, can I have my rights back? Like that's what you're doing. And I find it grossly offensive. Your right to life is not vitiated in any way. You can be the biggest piece of shit on the planet, and you still got a right to life. Because that's how rights work. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now, but I'm with you. That license thing makes me angry.
Oh, I maintain every elected official who has ever voted for or signed on to any law that refers to guns is a criminal. They are in violation of their oath of office, the Second Amendment, the Constitution generally, the 14th Amendment, guarantee of a right to equal treatment under the law, and Section 242 of U.S. Code 18, suppression of civil liberties under color of law. They are criminals, and the severity of their crime is such that Section 242 says that they, if tried and convicted, they are subject to up to and including the death penalty. And I think we should pursue that with every bit of government prosecutorial power that can be mustered. Yeah, if you've ever voted for a gun law, you belong at the end of a rope. That's not my opinion. That's the law. So, a food vendor with a concealed carry license shot and killed a man who pulled a gun on him Friday night, Chicago police said. There's another sentence that I can talk about for a while all by itself. A food vendor with a concealed carry license shot and killed a man who pulled a gun on him Friday night, Chicago police said. Rule number one of a gunfight is you cannot outdraw someone who's got the drop on you.
Right.
But, and that's true. Without basically it being your entire life of competitive shooting sport, even if you're somebody who practices often, you cannot outdraw somebody who's already got the drop on you. They've got a gun pointed at you. You're not going to sling lead and beat them to the cut.
Yeah, let's go back to that 900 feet a second. Like that's
correct. That said, the first rule of a knife fight is plan on getting cut. So if they've already got the drop on you and you see your moment, you're asking yourself the question now, am I sure he's going to kill me and is trying to squeeze one off in the hopes that I'm severely injured instead of murdered within the realm of possibility? And now your risk-reward matrix is changing. And I'm not saying I know what the right thing to do is in every given situation like that. Clearly, in this situation, homeboy saw his opening and he took it. And we already know from the language that we've just in the first two sentences of this article that he made the right play. So police said the shooting.
I'm just laughing. Yeah, he did. He made the right play.
Oh, yeah.
You ain't wrong.
Yeah. So sometimes you've got to make a bet. Sometimes that bet's a long shot. And it doesn't always pay off, but that's why we have risk-reward matrices. Police said the shooting happened in the South Austin neighborhood's 300 block of South Central Avenue just before 9 p.m. A 30-year-old man approached a 35-year-old man who's a food vendor, and there was a brief struggle, police said. Police said the 30-year-old man took out a gun, and the 35-year-old, who is a CCL holder, also took out a gun. There was an exchange of gunfire, and the 30-year-old, who suffered multiple gunshot wounds to his body, apparently needed to spend 5 more years at the fucking range. He just walked in with a deficit of skill set. There was an exchange of gunfire, and the 30-year-old who suffered multiple gunshot wounds to his body was transported to Mount Sinai Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. The Cook County medical examiner later.
Yeah, I need to read the next one, apparently.
The Cook County medical examiner later said 34-year-old Demetrius Manning was killed in the incident. Police had reported earlier the man who died was 30 years old. The 35-year-old food vendor shot in his right arm was transported to Stroger Hospital in good condition. Police said the incident is being investigated as an attempted robbery. There were 2 firearms at the scene, and Area 4 detectives are investigating. Police did not immediately provide further information about the shooting. So yeah, like I said a minute ago, they've already got the drop on you. You're taking a big risk when you try to outdraw somebody who's got the drop on you. You cannot outdraw when they've got the drop on you. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth trying, because it could easily be the case that since the other guy had the drop, that if the food vendor had not drawn and Stryker says roll for alertness, roll for initiative. If the 35-year-old food vendor had not basically rolled a nat 20 on his initiative roll, he might have got shot center mass instead of in the arm.
I'll just be honest. If this was me, if I'm the guy that got winged and then still managed to kill the attacker, I would be so obnoxious. You guys would all hate me. Yeah. Oh, Chris, you went to war? That's good. I've actually been shot, motherfucker. Top that. Right? That would be that would be me. Look, I'll stop.
No, you're good. I tell you what, after you get yourself shot, we'll go down that road. We'll talk about how I ended up needing hearing aids.
It wasn't getting shot.
Well,
okay. All right. Here we go. This one's coming to you from CBS News. Golly, this one's an older one, but whatever. We're gonna roll with it. This was dated November 22nd.
Yeah, actually, real quick, you're right. It is an older one, and that's something that I want to address a little bit. The various sources that I use for DGUs have been thin lately. I don't know what's going on, and it's something that I'd like to look into a little bit, but
maybe enough bad guys have been shot.
Right.
That risk reward matrix has started.
What exactly is going on there, but for the last several years, we were easily finding we would have enough DGUs that happened this week that we wouldn't get to all of them, even if we did a long show.
Right.
And that's getting to be less and less the case, it seems. And that may just be that it's an election year. We've just gone through a very heated election, and those stories aren't being reported as often as they used to be because there's so much other reporting to do. So we may see an uptick in those stories, and that may not be indicative of the rate of occurrence so much as kind of the op tempo of the news cycle. But
right.
That's why we're ending up with some older ones for a little while, at least.
I mean, it's still less than a month old. It still makes the point. Which, by the way, look, and I will shamelessly take credit. The Firearms Friday segment was my idea. I said, hey, you know what? Let's have an ongoing segment where we discuss recent events where good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns, because one of the biggest false narratives that comes from the left is like, oh, well, that never happens. There's never a good guy with a gun. Well, yeah, there is a good guy with a gun. The question is it a civilian or a cop? Like, it's always a good guy with a gun that stops. In fact, there's even a third option where the bad guy gets away with it and runs off into the night. So it's always somebody with a gun that stops the criminal activity 100% of the time. It's just who's going to be that person. So that's where this came from. That's why Chris is giving the update. We tended to try and keep these no less than 7 days old, just to really drive the point home. So, but okay, now that we've said that, we've given the little disclaimer. All right, November 22nd, CBS News: man dies after he was shot in the head while attempting to steal a car in Northeast Philadelphia, police say. Okay. An investigation is underway after a man shot another man who was attempting to steal his car while he was at an ATM in Northeast Philadelphia Friday afternoon, Philadelphia police said. Officers responded to Frankfurt Avenue and Pratt Street after 3 p.m. for a shooting. This is near SEPTA's Frankfurt Transit Center station. Authorities said a middle-aged man identified as John Doe was shot in the head. Police told CBS News Philadelphia that a man using an ATM left his car running and another man jumped in an attempt to steal it. The owner of the car, a licensed gun owner, there we are again, shot into the car one time, hitting John Doe. According to police, John Doe was taken to Temple University Hospital, where he later died Friday evening, according to the homicide unit. He was pronounced at 6:17 p.m. Authorities said SEPTA police took the shooter into custody, and there's no other impact on SEPTA service. Okay, so
he went to the hospital with a gunshot wound, not yet dead. That's a rough way to go out, buddy. That's a rough way to go.
Yes. Okay.
That's such a rough way to go that, frankly, that's a good reason not to steal people's fucking cars.
Yeah, and I don't know how Pennsylvania law or the local ordinances for Philadelphia are going to work out with this one, because what happened is, I'm just going to call him Jim to make things simple. Jim drives to the bank, appears to be in a hurry, leaves his car running, runs up to the ATM to get some cash out, and then somebody else jumps into his car in an attempt to steal it while Jim is not in the car, because the article said that Jim fired back into the car at John Doe.
Yeah, he might have a hard time making a case for self-defense here.
Now, look, ethically speaking, don't steal my car. For a long time, it was the law in most of the country that being a horse thief was a hanging offense. And that was because stealing somebody's horse could literally kill them. Mm-hmm. So and obviously things are not exactly the same in the world that we live in now. Like, if you're in Philadelphia, you can get a ride. Like, let's be honest.
You get an Uber, public transportation, taxi, bus, what have you. Absolutely.
Yes, I see all the Fresh Prince jokes in the thread, and I'm just not going there, guys. But we love you. Keep going. So now, ethically speaking, don't steal my car, and you probably won't get shot. Like, I'm good with all that, but we really do come right to the edge of where those ethics are at, because this type of carjacking you could do without being a threat. Like, you could be unarmed and you could steal somebody's car this way. Now, I don't know that you're unarmed. All I know is that you are willing to commit a major felony, and you're going to commit it against me. So, assuming that you're armed and assuming that you intend to do me bodily harm if I resist, I think is a reasonable assumption. But ethically, you really do come to the edge, and legally, I would tell anybody watching, maybe don't. Now, if you're in the car and they get in the car with you, oh yeah, blast them. Obviously, they're a threat. But if you are not in the car and you're firing back into your car, maybe don't do that. This guy, while I think ethically was correct, he could end up doing 20 years for killing this guy.
Yeah. Rich Zoohouse says that was a bad shoot. The shooter was negligent and brought it on himself. He's in big trouble in a blue city like Philly. This makes it harder to defend actual self-defense cases. I'm going to agree with everything you're saying there, Rich, right up until this makes it harder to defend actual self-defense cases. Like Cameron said, I'm in complete agreement with Cameron on this one. You are morally, ethically, you are in the right when you kill somebody while they're in the act of stealing from you. Well, even if your life is not in danger, right? So, somebody's trying to take your car out of a parking lot or coming onto your property and trying to pick up a football out of the front yard and run off with it. I'm not saying it's a good idea to shoot the kid running off with the football, but you're talking about property rights, ethically, morally, and in more archaic legal theory, you're good. But in all fairness, legally, under the current structure of law, it is the fact that what we're looking at here is certainly a bad shoot by legal.
I would agree. Yeah, that this is at best this is a questionable shoot. That like this is I feel like I've actually already made that point pretty clear.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I'm right there with you. The horse. I don't think there's a serious, legitimate. Now, okay. The only reasonable distinction to be drawn between a horse thief and a car thief is the argument that in modernity, like Cameron was saying, it can be argued that the car thief is a less severe threat to the safety and survivability than was the horse thief of old. That is a fair argument to be made. However, it cannot be argued that stealing the car poses no threat of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right? And that's what it comes to. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and frankly, property. Right? Stealing a person's car does, in fact, compromise all of those things. Now, it may be to a lesser extent than stealing someone's horse would, 100 years ago. And that's not irrelevant, but it is certainly not. It's certainly not a coffin nail argument.
Yeah, and really, just as a quick aside, I'm somebody that does occasionally leave his car running, but I lock it when I do that. So, just saying, just making a suggestion that if you're going to engage in this, and I certainly wouldn't leave my car running at an ATM. Like that's probably about what I would.
Oh shit!
Especially if I was in Philadelphia. Like, no.
Right. Aaron Olson says theft is worse than murder due to my experience. I'm gonna push back on you a little bit there, Aaron, and Cameron and I have had this conversation on air many times before. Here's the argument that I'll make. Murder is the only crime there is. Everything else that appears to be a crime is a fraction of murder. When you steal property, money, when you steal from someone, what you're taking from them is something for which they exchanged some part of what is their life. Murder is the total termination of a life. Anything short of that can be legitimately considered a crime is just a fractional piece of the murder. You're killing someone just a little bit. And this is reflected in the way that law is taught and the philosophy of law is theorized in university and academia, in the legal academia of English common law and the body politic of American law. One of the first things you're taught in law school is that crime is harm. If there's no harm, there's no crime. If you can't prove harm, you can't prove that it was a crime. It's one of the reasons that you'll often hear people on police television shows say no body, no crime. right? No body, no murder, no body, no crime. If you don't have a body, then what you have is not a murder, it's a missing person, right? It may have been a murder, but if you can't find the body, you can't guarantee that the person isn't just, fucked off to Aruba, sipping Mai Tais on the beach. So I would not go so far as to say theft is worse than murder due to my, in not even my experience, Aaron. I wouldn't say theft is worse than murder. And here's the major difference. Theft, while I will argue that it is fractionally murder and, well, to a lesser degree, identical in function, what makes murder the ultimate is that unlike almost every lesser harm, it creates a debt which cannot be settled. So if someone steals my car, gets caught, and then buys me a car to replace it, right? You steal my car, you get caught. Here's what I need from you to say, you know what? We're good now. You've got to replace the vehicle either by returning the one you stole, and you have to compensate me for the cost of its absence from my possession, which includes, vehicle maintenance, the gas, the wages that I may have earned using that vehicle, whatever convenience. And let me tell you something. The estimation of the value of my time when you're having to pay for my time against my will goes up dramatically higher than the cost of my time when we're trading it voluntarily. But there still exists the possibility that I can be compensated for the harm that was caused by the crime and be made whole. In the case of a murder, you cannot make the victim or the victim's family whole.
But I get Aaron's point, though. Like, it's somebody that I work with had their car stolen recently, and it was devastating for her. Like, it caused major disruptions in their life. Like, I do get his point. I realize what you're saying, that like the only currency any of us can really offer is time. And I do agree that if crime is harm, then it is fractions of murder. Like, I don't disagree with any of that. But I get Aaron's point. I really do. Like, sometimes having a really, 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 really bad day, like having your car get stolen, fuck. Like, that might be as bad as it gets at certain points in your life. So we're way, way, way long. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh, I've noticed.
We're coming up on 9 o'clock.
I've run out of backup coffee.
I have also run out of backup coffee.
I'm at the last couple cold drops in the bottom of my daddy cup. So,
and somebody's been watching us on Locals, which is really cool, from what I can tell. I'd like to know who that was. And then,
actually,
okay,
I'm gonna do a quick experiment. I'm gonna watch us on Locals with the sound off for a second, because whoever's watching us on Locals is not commenting. So I want to see
if you could tell who it is.
No, I want to see if I can make a comment and get it to populate.
So anyhow, let me just say, because Christmas doth approacheth, and look, let me just be like really serious here. I understand so much of the historical context here. Like, I get it. Like, it's winter solstice, and the reason why we bring greenery inside is actually old traditions from, thousands of years ago. And I realized that shepherds don't tend to herd sheep in December in the Middle East. Like, I get it, guys. I really do. Okay. You could poke all the holes you want in this holiday. However, it is magical. It is spiritual. It is ethereal. I want you all to have a very Merry Christmas. It is a holiday that the majority of the world celebrates in jubilation. It's when family gets together. The things that it represents: tolerance, forgiveness, fellowship. There's all the stuff with Joe Biden, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of him pardoning all those people. Believe it or not, even though these pardons appear to be really corrupt, I'm good with it. And I know that it comes from the concept of the king's pardon, which is a thing that I'm also good with. Because if there's no pardon, if there's no forgiveness, if there's no system to where we can say, I forgive you, you forgive me, let's go ahead and work together, give each other a second chance, there is no civilization. There is none of the things that we enjoy, because none of us are perfect. Not one. And part of what we're celebrating when we celebrate Christmas as the birth of Christ is we are celebrating everything that we enjoy in the modern era. We're celebrating the fact that we can marry for love, for example, instead of by arrangement. And the only way you can marry for love is if you can occasionally forgive your spouse, because your spouse is not going to be perfect, but they're your spouse. Have you ever had a job where you messed up and they looked the other way? Have you ever made a mistake and they said, you know what, 99% of the time you do the right thing, so I'm just going to excuse this one? And even going into our legal traditions where it is possible for one person to make another person whole when they commit a crime. All of that is what builds our society. It's why we have air conditioning. It's why we live to be about 80 years old. It's why we can have all the fattening food this time of year. It's why we have jobs, iPhones, all of it. So when I say Merry Christmas, really, I get it. You want to argue the historical context and scientific realities and everything else. Look, I'm here for it. Okay. Truth is truth, and it's important. But if we're going to say truth is truth and it's important, then meta truth is also important. And the thing that is the most important thing about this holiday is that it is inherently spiritual. And I would argue everything in your life that you enjoy that brings you even the slightest bit of creature comfort exists because this holiday exists. So please, if I don't see you again before Christmas, have a very Merry Christmas. There you go.
Man, brother, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. So yeah, we're going into the weekend before Christmas. It's a Friday, and that means safety brief. Y'all, this is a major travel holiday, obviously. A lot of you are going to be out on the road. Some of you are going to be on the road driving long distances in snow. And there's people out there. Tell you a little secret. People are bad at snow. So, be very, very careful. Now, normally going into a normal weekend, I might tell you something like, hey, get out there, have a good time, maybe an adult beverage or two, make it a point not to add to or subtract from the population, and you should be in good shape. Right? It generally holds, but ain't nobody hating on a Christmas baby either. And kids are good. Babies are good. I mean, I'm done. And I know our demographic, a lot of people watching our show are, well, you're too old to be making babies. But
not too old to try.
You're never too old to try. That's right.
Man, that's like playing pool. You don't have to be good at it to really enjoy doing it.
Yeah. So I don't want to say it too loud where somebody might overhear, but sometime between now and the time that Santa Claus visits our home, I am going to hang a dozen chock full of nuts cans up on one end of the property for a certain young man who is about to need such an opportunity.
Okay.
And that, make sure they don't put their eye out, is your safety brief. and yes, Megan, you should bring the boys out to hell, if you're not getting them BB guns for their birth for Christmas, well, come see us. And if you are, come see us. So thanks for watching this morning, guys. I have no idea if the outro is going to work this morning, but I'm going to try. And that's a wrap. Hour and a half. Good show. Merry Christmas. Y'all be safe. We love you, and we will see you on Monday. And no, the outro is not going to play, so we're just going to have to end the stream. Oh,
we're going to eventually end the stream.
And dude, I just got a message that said the end stream button has failed and the stream has not ended.
I'm clear. I see that we're still live.
I think when I click this next button, it's just going to shut it off. Yeah, I don't know what to do here.
we appear to still be live.
We do. I'm going to try one more thing, and this might be the thing that does it.
Okay. Am I live? Because it says live. Hello?
Live. What I just did is refresh the page. Now let's. You know what? We're here.
Now I'm in the driver's seat.
I'm going to take just a second here, because this gives me an opportunity to potentially learn something. And son of a bitch!
So you should have just refreshed the page.
Right. And that occurred to me earlier to refresh the page, but I decided not to because I was frankly concerned that if I just hit the refresh the page button, that the result would be that it would just end the stream. Now we know. So if we have that problem again, I'll refresh the page and come right back into the show. All right. So for Christmas this year, we have enjoyed the gift of learning. So once again, y'all be safe. We love you, and we will see you on Monday. And here comes the last attempt at the outro.
Well, son of a bitch.
It worked.
Still live, though.